Uniform Show, episode 22. The NFL has returned, the 2024 season, and we're back to review uniforms. It is one of the most exciting uniform seasons that I can remember. Maybe the most exciting uniform season, between new uniforms, helmets, alternate uniforms, especially the throwback uniforms. So let's get into it, and we're going to do the first 4 weeks. There's that much to cover in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Opening night, the Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs.
This was pretty good overall. The Chiefs, what you'd expect, red on white on red, and the Ravens with the white on white with the pants having the stripe, which is a lot nicer than the stripeless black pants. But they decided to go with the white socks, and it's just a continuing trend in the NFL. The teams are doing this, especially teams that used to have colored socks converting to white, like the Ravens having black before. This was really the only major disappointment from both teams.
One thing that's been great about the Chiefs, I'll come up with two things that have been great about the Chiefs and their success. One is Arrowhead. Having that stadium featured in so many big and primetime games. And then second would be the uniforms themselves. You know exactly what to count on from the Chiefs. It's one of the best home uniforms in football. I would say it's the second tier. Well, it's excellent home uniform.
Yeah.
But the Ravens, and they are one of these teams that has decided to go with the all-white sock or stocking, and this is just going to keep coming up throughout the season. There's so much of it. It's taken over in the league. We've said many times how we feel about it. We don't like it. It's too much of one color. And what I would like to see for the Ravens is, if you're not going to have black sock, can you do the striping that you had? Even though it was a little, it worked in the 2000 Super Bowl, the 2000 season, the 2000 Ravens. They had even just thin stripes on the socks. Could those at least return instead of the all-white look?
Yeah.
First game of the season, the better dressed team won.
Yep.
So that was the Thursday night game. Then we had a second game before Sunday. It was the Friday night game in Brazil. Packers and Eagles, and the Eagles were the home team.
Yeah, and they debuted the black on white on black combination, which we have already reviewed and said that it's a lot better than a lot of alternates, but still not better than what the Eagles could have worn. Green helmet, green pants, or if this had been an actual home game for them, they might have worn the Kelly greens, and the Packers would have worn their road uniforms, which would have been much better than this.
Yeah, and I've never understood the black helmet, or just the decision to wear black for the Eagles when you already have a very dark shade of green in the first place. You really have to look closely just to even see the difference out there.
Right.
And it's a poor choice when you're up against the Packers of all teams. The best uniform, at least in the NFL, arguably the best uniform in all of sports. It's a decent alternate, but it's an unnecessary alternate uniform for the Eagles. But if you were to have these uniforms and you had to do the black uniform, would you rather see with the Eagles white pants or black pants to go along with the helmet?
I think both can work. The black pants do match the helmet well. And as we've said, it's nice when you have a helmet and pants that match, and then a contrasting jersey.
Of course, if they were having white pants, that would mean they would have black socks to go along with the pants. It wouldn't be the all-white look that you just saw with the Ravens.
And that could look decent, and something you can't count on, though, as when the Eagles have worn the white on white jersey, white pants, they have gone with white stockings all the way down recently, so wouldn't look as good.
Now for Sunday, and we had the New York Giants hosting the Minnesota Vikings.
And they have a throwback that's going back 100 years, and this is even before there were true helmets, leather helmets, and so the helmet isn't really even accurate to the throwback, doesn't really go with it. And it's somewhat interesting and different, but it's also something that just is too many different design elements and colors, patterns. It's just really messy in a lot of ways. Should be something that's left more in the past.
Yes, that is exactly how I feel about this. This is one that should be left in the past. The closest uniform you could match this to was actually a 1930s uniform for the Giants, but like you said, that was the leather helmet era, so this helmet was created just for the throwback.
Yeah.
And it reminds you of the Bears. I mean, certain elements of this uniform remind you of other teams. The helmet reminds me of that old Bears helmet that they bring out with the throwback they have. And then you've mentioned the pants. You say 49ers when you see that pants there too. And the 49ers and Giants have had some similarities with the uniforms over the years.
Yeah.
When the Giants have worn their road and they have so much red in that, it does look very similar to the 49ers road.
Right, white jersey with the red numbers and no blue.
But I just don't like it. There is too much going on. It's too busy. And the fact that, I like more blue, even if it's sure historical, I prefer blue on the Giants rather than the red. I don't need to see this one again. I would say just keep on wearing and wear the 80s, 90s Bill Parcells era uniform more.
Yeah.
Just wear that one more. It's a winner, and it's even superior to their standard uniforms.
Agree.
But the result was not surprising, at least for us. I'd say dressed for failure. The Giants fell, and they can retire these uniforms.
Yeah.
This was a late addition to new uniforms, alternate uniforms. The Cincinnati Bengals brought out a primarily orange uniform with the orange helmet that we all want, but then they added this orange jersey and orange pants.
Yeah. It's a lot of orange and reminds you of a Color Rush uniform. And what helps is there is the striping, and it all matches the helmet, black stripes, orange background, same with the jersey and the pants. That's a nice feature, and also the black socks, so it's not a complete Color Rush. So better than some all single color uniforms, except for the socks, but it still is just a bit too much orange in the end.
Too much orange, but I have to admit that this one has grown on me some because of the black socks.
Yeah.
It's not just orange from top to bottom. And all in all, it's an okay alternate, but it's a weaker alternate than the white helmet well, the white all the way down, which we've been introduced to, which is a more recent alternate.
Yeah.
If you just have the white pants, I mean, that's what would fix it for me. You have orange, which they've done in the past. Orange helmet, orange jersey, white pants.
Right.
That would be better. There are a lot of uniforms to complain about, and if they just wear this once a season, I won't complain very much.
Yeah.
On the right here, I have to point out a couple of things that, yeah, the socks are a little too transparent. I hate to do that to Joe Burrow. But I wish, again, the material was a little thicker on these socks. And then with the Patriots, Guardian cap.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to find some way of having a Guardian cap, but covering it better, more like Steve Wallace or Mark Kelso, where you have some sort of shell or thin layer that fits over it that looks more smooth. You don't have ripples and...
I mean, it's just something that resembles more of an actual helmet. It's something
Yeah.
that matches the helmet than something that's just a covering that you put, like a foam covering or whatever the Guardian cap is.
Yeah, and something that also can be actually a match to the actual helmet, not gray or whatever color it is.
Yeah, there's just some that are just terrible mismatches. That's why when you bring up someone like Steve Wallace as an example with the 49ers, that it did match the same tone, same color.
Yeah.
It was just simply on top of the regular helmet, but it was the same material. It was
Yeah.
the same plastic
Right.
that was on it. The Texans. Now the Texans have introduced new uniforms, and there was a ton of excitement over these. All the new uniforms, the alternate uniforms for the Texans, and the Texans fans are very excited about these and even riled up over them. And our opinions about the Texans uniforms are very unpopular. Let's start off with the road uniforms here, and that's what they wore in week one, and this is the only uniform set that we're really going to focus on, are actually the road uniforms in this episode for the Texans.
Yeah.
They visited the Colts, and one thing I just have to say, because we appreciate stadiums too, is week one the Colts opened up Lucas Oil,
Yeah.
and it almost looks like a regular outdoor game in Indianapolis. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about these uniforms. It is neat that you guys see them out in the daylight and the sun.
Yeah. To start, and we saw them in the preseason as well, in the Hall of Fame game. And to me, this is the best set they have. Again, the contrast of having a helmet and pants that are the same with a white or a different color jersey in the middle is the best for a uniform. And then they have blue socks instead of red socks. That is different. And again, from a distance, these uniforms don't look that different from what they already had. Mainly the horn hooks on the shoulders standing out, but a lot of it is really the same. And it is good that they kept the glossy helmet.
Yeah, in some ways they're better than what they had. In other ways they're weaker. But when I look at the Texans and these uniforms, with the changes they've made and the strong reactions from the fan base, I don't personally understand it, because they aren't that different. And at the end of the day, they're still at the bottom of the league in uniforms. They are disappointing uniforms. They are D-range uniforms.
Right. And the numbers have gotten worse. Things overall have gotten worse, but not, as you just said, that different from what we already had.
The Falcons hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I call this the class versus the classless. The class, we better explain this because there's such bad uniform taste nowadays. The class would be the Steelers. The classless, that's the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, big opening game, and the Falcons go with the black on black, and they have their matte helmets, which just look bad under the indoor lighting, especially. And you just want the turnbacks once again every time you see these. Last year they wore the turnbacks against the Steelers, so you think of it even more. But especially for a week one, not terribly surprising that they came out like this, but still disappointing against such a classy team like the Steelers.
And when I look at the Falcons, it's week one. They have a new quarterback. In some ways, they're starting over again. But this is the beginning with a new quarterback, a new face for the franchise with Kirk Cousins. And this is how you start, with a black on black. And the Steelers, I love both uniforms for the Steelers, but the road is their best of the two, and it ended up being a Steelers win, and the Steeler fans and the towels took over in Atlanta. It was a terrible start for the Falcons season. Just give me some white pants. I mean, there's all kinds of problems with these uniforms that we've gone through many times, but this was just a very weak and lame way to start the season.
Yeah.
They can do so much better. Even with these uniforms, they can do better. They can do better with the turnback uniforms. And I didn't expect them to do something so stupid in week one.
Yeah, and when you even just add in the white pants to this uniform set, it does make a big difference.
The big afternoon game, Cowboys at Browns. It was on Fox. It was the America's game of the week. And when you watch the Cowboys in a game such as this, week one, on Fox, America's game of the week, you come to learn what to expect. It's a home game for the Browns, and the Cowboys are shown coming on the field as if it's a home game for the Cowboys. This game was in Cleveland. It was not in Dallas. This was also Tom Brady's first game as an announcer with Fox. And what was different, though, than what you would normally have with a Cowboys at Browns game in Cleveland was that affects the uniforms was the lighting.
Yeah.
Here on the West Coast, it was a 1:25 start, but this was a late afternoon game in Cleveland.
Yeah. And we were looking forward to this and seeing what the teams would wear, speculating even that the Browns might wear away at home and force the Cowboys to wear blue on silver, but they didn't. The Browns have brought back the white face mask, and we're going for more of the classic look that went along with that. And so they wore what you would see them wear a lot with the white face mask at home, the brown on white. And the Cowboys looking very sharp overall for those who wore their socks correctly, especially. And it was one of the best uniform matchups of week one, in our opinions.
Yeah, the Browns, for me, rank very high, well, for both of us.
Yeah.
Among all uniforms, especially the home uniform. They're the only team that look like themselves, and that's not the criteria for strong uniforms. It just really works.
Yeah.
The solid brown, the striping on the jersey, the socks when they're worn right. And now that they've gone back to the helmet, the best version of the helmet, it's the best the Browns are going to look. And the Cowboys the Cowboys will look good
Yeah.
out there with their white uniforms, which is really the home uniform. And what pleased me about the uniforms was I was concerned a little bit about the lighting since it was middle to late afternoon in Cleveland.
Yeah.
That at least for the first half of the game, the lighting was still ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, we gained a new appreciation for Cleveland during the day in the sunshine, especially in the afternoon. And like you said, the point about the helmets, they're not matte anymore. They're now glossy again. And again, the white face mask returns. Huge improvements, but really nice environment for the first game here in Cleveland.
I have to rip both quarterbacks, though, here for different reasons. Dak Prescott, you and I have been, as far as, let's say, the socks,
Yeah.
criticizing him constantly for that. He comes out week one with the white sock stocking. When you look at his center, his offensive linemen, they are wearing the uniform correctly with
Right.
the blue. And, of course, the blue matches the numbers, the stripes,
Yep.
and the striping, I should say, the striping on the shoulder, the numbers, the striping on the pants.
Right.
It's that way for a reason. So he wears it wrong, and then Deshaun Watson here toned down the orange. You need to have some other color on the shoes besides all orange.
Yeah.
It's too much.
White or black or even brown with a logo on it.
And Ezekiel Elliott made his return to the Cowboys, and you wondered, well, what number was he going to wear? He wore 21, which, if you know Cowboys history, Deion Sanders wore 21 when we were beginning to watch football.
Right.
It was also his number in Dallas when he was a rookie until he left his whole career. He comes back with number 15.
Yeah, carried over from when he was with the Patriots.
And then he also wears the all-white sock look, which was a very bad choice.
Yeah. And the new Axiom helmet. So, very different look for him. Not recognizable, really, with the Cowboys, except for the name on his back.
And then here's a perfect example of, in good lighting, the Browns helmet.
Yeah.
Back to what it should be. The glossy helmet, the white face mask. I love seeing this Browns uniform. And it was... We didn't make rankings of the first games, but it's arguably this was the best of week one.
Yeah.
Seattle. Now, the Seahawks, I am always complaining about the Seahawks uniforms, and we want to see these turnbacks for so many years. They brought them back last year, and we knew they were coming back this year again, and they made the decision, and I will say the right decision, to wear these in week one.
Yeah. That's a home debut done right. Week one with the throwback, and it just makes you say, well, why don't you just go back to it full time if you're willing to debut week one at home in them?
That tells you. That tells you right there that we think these are the better uniforms.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there saying, well, then why aren't they your full-time uniforms?
Yeah. And again, done very nicely, and just seeing them in the sunshine outside in Seattle and taking advantage of week one with more sunlight and a higher sun than you'd have later in the season. A great choice.
Yeah, in week one, this was perfect for these Seahawks uniforms because lighting can be a little tricky, we've noticed over the years in Seattle, as the season progresses, as you get into the November, December for 1 o'clock, 1:25 kickoffs. And there you see it. I mean, the helmet, the silver helmet, the blue and the green. Normally you think they wouldn't work. They really do work together.
Yeah.
And although they don't have the silver pants, the gray pants It's such an improvement over just blue, blue, blue.
Yeah.
All the way down that we've seen for too many years. Blue helmet, blue jersey, blue pants, blue socks.
Yeah.
This has become one of my favorite alternate uniforms. And I don't like the Seahawks, but I like watching them when they wear these.
Yeah. Just kind of like we've said with the Buccaneers, if you want to take the current ones and make them a throwback because you won the Super Bowl in them, okay, but these should be your primaries again. And they did a great job with the end zones being all blue too.
Yeah, the Seahawks really go all out on this, as you see. Yeah, the walls, the end zones. We're going to get to the Broncos in a moment. And this is the way you kick off your season, Seahawks, and I want to thank the Seahawks for doing this. They got the victory in this one. And bring them back.
Yeah.
Set last year, saying again, wear these as much as you can. I know it's only a limited number of times that you're going to have these during the season, but it is time to return to these uniforms full time.
Yeah.
The fans love them. The players seem to like them. And the uniforms have been very boring and disappointing in Seattle for a long time. And also, the cheerleaders. I think it's a winning look all the way, too. The cheerleaders look amazing. This is one of the best cheerleaders' uniforms, whether you're considering regular uniforms or throwback, turnback uniforms. It is a great use of color. This is how you are to use color at its best. Whether it's the girls, whether it's the guys, it's a 80s, 90s look, but it's a welcome look.
Yeah. They outfitted everything and everybody perfectly, and just really does make it feel like a throwback all the way around.
And usually I'm a fan of the white boots, but I've come to appreciate the simple white shoes. The white socks look is also a good look too.
Yeah.
It works for them.
And the guys with the white high tops too.
Yes. Those jackets and pants are really cool.
Yeah.
The Broncos, though. We got to talk about the Broncos. The Seahawks, they knocked it out of the park week 1. The Broncos, on the other hand, we reviewed it in the preseason. They came out like this. You have these excellent throwback uniforms on one side, and then you have these dreadful uniforms, the worst uniforms. Let me put it like this. You had the best uniforms the Seahawks possibly could wear. For the Broncos, this is about the worst uniforms they could wear. They are the worst uniforms, road uniforms, in their franchise history. This is their new look, and it's far worse than what they had. And before we comment on this, it was interesting going through the Seahawks website. They were showing all these old classic pictures and photos of games in the past when they were divisional opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all thinking to myself, wouldn't it be neat if the Broncos somehow wore their turnbacks? As you know, the Broncos were going to wear their homes.
Right.
What if they could wear their roads and really make this just an all-out throwback game? No, didn't happen. What you got was this.
Yeah, and what we said is that teams should coordinate more on the throwback days. And for the Broncos, they have their new throwbacks, the Orange Crush again. All they need is a road jersey to make a road version of it, and they could have had the perfect matchup of a throwback on both sides here. But like we said, just the only thing that really has been improved is the hooks are gone from the Broncos jersey. But
hey, let's just go from top to bottom.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this? We got out the only positive, that the hooks are gone, but let's just start with the helmet and go down.
yeah, again, the helmet went from glossy to matte. The stripe down the middle is now this small little quarter or less stripe, which you can't even see except from behind on the helmet. The matte helmet really accentuates the slits and vents a lot more, making the helmet look more chunky. And then the shoulder pattern with the Nike logo is jagged. The pants, instead of having a consistent stripe that goes all the way down, it's uneven and unbalanced, which is the current modern uniform trend.
Just be thankful there's any stripe on the pants, right?
Right. But yeah, we'll give them that compared to the Saints and Lions. But the stockings, again, transparent, seams showing, and the shoes are decent in the case here of Bo Nix, but it's a step down from what they had. And as we said in our review already, the Broncos were kind of more middle of the pack, and now they're right at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, you feel even more strongly about these than I do. You've gone on to say that they are the worst uniforms in the entire league. And another thing that you're not going to see it in this picture, we'll see it more in others coming up, in other shows and later on, is they have a pattern inside the numbers too.
That too.
That's just another problem with these Broncos uniforms. And this is a team with a good history. This is a good team that, well, usually throughout their history have looked good.
Yeah.
Through the decades, it was a weaker look, let's say, with the 97 uniforms. That's when they had their last uniform set. They came in 97 through 2023.
Yeah.
It was a long time. They were weaker uniforms, but this is the worst yet. Beautiful game in Los Angeles. Just a beautiful game to start the season. Raiders and Chargers.
Yeah, and this was right up there at the top.
That's why I was going back and forth between, well, what is the best uniform matchup of week one? Cowboys, Browns, or this one, Raiders and Chargers?
Yeah, this has more of the history, and especially on the Chargers side, more the bright and beautiful colors compared to the Browns and Cowboys matchup. But in both cases, just excellent execution of what they had to work with. And as we've said, Chargers with either the white pants or the yellow pants, it's a great look.
And this is the strongest that both teams would wear. These are the best uniforms of their sets that they would wear. That I like the Raiders road even more than their home,
right,
and the
here.
Chargers home is one of the better home uniforms in football. So you do have one of the best roads and one of the best homes facing off in week one, and the lighting's good for being an indoor stadium in Los Angeles at SoFi, or sometimes I call it Sophie. But this was also a real treat. We were going back and forth between these two games in the afternoon. I was like, wow, talking about great uniforms. Cowboys, Browns, Raiders, Chargers. It was a uniform feast between those two games. And yeah, it's good to see. Good to see these uniforms worn right.
Yep.
We were waiting for this one. Week one, Sunday Night Football. The Lions' new uniforms.
Yeah. And through all the pictures that we've been shown in the debut of their new uniforms, we were led to believe that they were bringing back the blue and silver pants combination this year as their primary home uniform, looking sharp, looking like Barry Sanders did again. And in this first game, they come out in blue on blue, the same old, same old.
Yeah, we were wondering if there was any possibility they might do this. And I thought, well, with the Lions, there's a chance. But I expected them to wear the blue on gray, blue on silver combination. And they came out with really more of the same.
Yeah. And in all the pictures that were shown, this was the one combination that was not even shown in a single picture. But they couldn't resist. They wore them in the playoffs last year. They wore them in big games, most of the home games last year, and this was a primetime game, so of course they wore them again.
And the only advantage you get with this uniform, specifically the jersey here, because the pants aren't any better when it's just all blue,
Right.
is block numbers, and they cleaned up the shoulders some.
Right. And I actually liked the blue on blue they had last year and the last so many years because the pant did have the stripe that matched. And for a color on color, it was actually one of the better ones. But these now are just complete blue, plain nothing. Nothing to match the jersey or helmet or anything.
Yeah, slightly improved helmet, too. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Over what they had. But the whole idea was to get away from this blue on blue look. And this is not a week 2, week 3. It's not a second home game. This is the first home game with these new uniforms. You know, everyone's watching for the Sunday night primetime game. And this is how you began with this new set of uniforms. Because if you're looking at it from a distance and you're not seeing close up, you would have thought it's the same uniforms. Is there even a change?
Yeah.
Not until they zoom in.
No. Totally false advertising with all the publicity pictures they put up of the new uniforms featuring the blue on silver pants. And in my opinion, they should just go back to the turnbacks, 1984 to 2002, the ones that Barry Sanders wore, of course, and just use those if they're going to use them so sparingly in the preseason or once during the regular season. Just might as well make it the full accurate throwback.
Yeah, this week 1, there were some real disappointments. We had some strong uniform choices, but the Lions were as disappointing as anyone because there was real hope that things were going to improve with the Lions.
Yeah.
And this is what we got.
Yeah.
All blue. But to finish up week 1, we have a real positive, and it was one of those uniform choices when you think of the new sets of uniforms that really got it right.
Yeah.
And that was the Jets. And you can say whatever you want about Aaron Rodgers' play on the field. He wears the uniform perfectly.
Yeah. Debut of the white on green Jets sack exchange set in the regular season. And like you said, Aaron Rodgers wears it classically and correctly with the classic helmet, the socks and cleats all balanced as they were traditionally more so, and represents the turnback uniform, now the primary uniform, the best.
It was a very interesting choice, though, that they decided to go with the green pants. We knew that they'd be wearing road,
Yeah.
but they had the option of wearing white pants or green pants. And how do you feel about that?
It's a pretty good look, and the only thing that really ruins it is the green socks to make too much green going all the way down.
Of the two, I would have preferred the white pants.
Yeah.
They're both good looks. I would say the traditional look is the better look, the white pants, as long as you have green socks to go along with it. If it's just an all white
Yeah.
all the way down, forget about it.
Yeah.
But overall, again, that's just nitpicking here.
Yeah.
This was a great improvement for the Jets. This was one we were looking forward to, and though the Lions were a tremendous disappointment, the Jets really came through.
Yeah.
Though they lost, they came through on the uniform front,
Yeah.
and it was a great way to finish off week 1.
It was.
The one thing I will say that I don't particularly like is the helmet. It's a little too shiny for me. It's got that metallic look that is untraditional, but that too would be nitpicking with the helmet and the green pants. I mean, the Jets had one of the worst uniforms in football there
Right.
for several years. And now they have, I'd put this in the top half.
Yeah.
Certainly put this in the top half of uniforms.
Same here. And the helmet, yes, under certain lighting conditions, definitely does not match the green in the rest of the uniform. But it's a small thing compared to the overall improvement, like you just said, being one of the worst uniforms of football, now being elevated up into the top ranks.
And starting week 2, it was a Thursday night game, Bills and Dolphins in Miami.
Dolphins bringing back their throwbacks, the home version of them, and looking really sharp doing it. And the Bills, white on blue. I think they look better in white on white normally, and few teams can say that, but they went with the white on blue. But the Dolphins, especially in this picture, when you have the socks done right, look really good. And we prefer the early 90s, most refined version of the Dolphins uniform over these, but this is still a great improvement over what they have, and they want to go back to these full time, as many people already would like it to be. Go ahead. And interesting that they have both the home and road jersey options with this throwback, as do the 49ers and the Giants.
I'm always happy to see these. It would actually any version of the Dolphins throwback uniforms. The problem with what they have currently is what's become so popular around the league is too much white.
Yeah.
Just white all over. I would say white's their primary color, especially when they're wearing that all white uniform, and to see a balance here and to see proper striping on the helmet.
Yeah.
Though you and I don't love white helmets, but this is done very well, and it takes them back to a time of great success in the franchise's history. And I'd like to see them wear this more than once.
Yeah.
During a season. And as much as we enjoy seeing some of these throwbacks, it's sad when they're used up once and that's all they're going to wear them the entire season. So we'll see on this one.
Yeah, some teams wear them twice. In the case of the Falcons, 3 times. The Dolphins should expand these to more.
The Jets wore their home uniform for the first time on the road against the Titans.
Yeah, first time that they wore these in the regular season, and it ends up being on the road against the Titans, looking terrible as they have recently, going all white with the white stockings as well. But the Jets, especially when the socks are worn right, like Aaron Rodgers has in the picture here, with some green and white balance in the socks, really sharp. The lighting was somewhat overcast, so diminished the Jets a bit, but still can really appreciate, again, the green on white after debuting the white on green in week 1.
This was the one I was really looking forward to. It was at the top of my list of uniforms I was excited for at the beginning of the season because we'd already seen the road version last year
Right.
for the Jets, and well, you just have more color with the green home jersey, and it is the stronger of the two. At least to me, it's the stronger of the two between the home and the road. And it was great to see this back in action again here, even though it was against the Titans, who, like you said, they look terrible. And you can say that about them every week.
Pretty much.
The Jets, when they've got this new combo of road and home uniforms, they are doing really well, and the majority of the time they're going to look like the better team on the field.
Yeah. What an upgrade from being at the bottom of our list with the previous uniform set, and now gone way up with these new uniforms.
And here's a comparison actually between the 1980s to now this current version. I really see two primary differences with this uniform, and one is the shoulders, or you could say the sleeves, the shoulder sleeve with the large striping,
Yeah.
and the collar. Well, you had much larger striping on the sleeve than what you have currently, and then the collar now is much larger than what you had in the former picture here in the past, which I don't like. That's really my only criticism of the new uniform set. It's the same with the home and the road, is the collar is too large. The white collar for the home, and then for the road, the green collar also can be reduced or shrunken down.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's a good comparison and showing some of the differences between the two, and some elements are better and some are worse. And then, of course, the helmet of the old set matches the jersey better than this more shiny helmet that was carried over from the previous set. But it's a small thing.
Yes, very small when we have so many bad uniforms to look at. And that brings us to the Washington Commanders, which, I mean, they were one of the worst uniforms in football, but we can actually say something positive about them here.
Yeah. Yeah, I myself was hoping that they would add in yellow pants at some point, especially with how dull the white can be for them when they especially go all white with white pants and white socks to go with the white jersey. But this really matches the other yellow in the uniform well, and the only thing that's really lacking is a stripe that would match with other elements from the jersey, but it's still a huge improvement in their best uniform set now when they choose this.
Yeah, it sure beats a color on color, burgundy on burgundy
Yeah.
that we saw all the way down. And I'm all for any improvements that the Commanders can make, as we had a long list of complaints, and as we should with these. Never liked the helmet, the matte helmet, the Commander's name with the lines on top and bottom is just terrible. The numbers are leaving a lot to be desired. And I stand by block numbers all day long. That every team, if they were smart, would have block numbers. But the yellow pants are a good improvement, and it should be their full-time look.
Yeah. Yeah, just some small changes like this. Well, this is actually more than a small change, but they also added a yellow face mask to go with the helmet and made the helmet glossy again, that would be a couple small changes to go with this bigger change. That would be a big improvement.
Yeah, and we'll take it. We'll take it at this point.
Yeah.
Then the head coach of the Commanders, you and I talked about this when we did the coaches show, was Dan Quinn and all the attention he received as defensive coordinator, whether it be positive or negative, of the Dallas Cowboys. He wore his hat backwards as a coordinator. And we were wondering, well, is he really going to dare to do that as a head coach? Well, he did it. Dan Quinn decided, I'm going to keep it backwards as the head coach.
Yeah, you just look more like a coordinator than a head coach. And
as call me old-fashioned, but for me as a head coach, I don't even care if you're a coordinator, but especially as a head coach, it's unprofessional, and I think it's somewhat disrespectful for a professional coach to do this in professional sports. I don't know how you can feel differently. I mean, for a long time, coaches wouldn't wear hats. I mean, like caps with a bill.
yeah,
But to wear a hat backwards on the sideline, it's very amateur to me. And I'm amazed he actually did this in the end. I don't care if the Commanders have success or not. Turn it around.
yeah, or don't wear it.
Or don't wear it at all. After some further research, Dan Quinn was not the first. Matt Patricia beat him to it as the head coach of the Lions. And speaking of the Lions, the Lions had their second game of the season. And they wore, this time, after week 1, Sunday night, they were home. Week 2, they were hosting at home for a second week in a row, now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and this is what we were hoping would have been used in week 1, what should have been used in week 1, what was advertised in all their new promos for their new uniforms, the classic look. But when was it used? For a 10 a.m. game against the Buccaneers when no one cares and no one's watching. Basically, what teams do when they wear uniforms that they like the least and don't care about and don't want anyone to see, they want to hide them. That's when they wear these. And that's what they did for the preseason too. Games that nobody's watching, they wore these. So it was great to see that they corrected things in week 2, but it was such a disappointment that they didn't wear them in week 1.
Yeah, this is by far the Lions' best uniform set. I mean, this is by far their best uniform. The home, silver helmet, blue jersey, gray pants, blue socks.
The alternating helmet, jersey, pants, socks, complementing each other and making contrast. The best formula you can have for a uniform, in our opinion.
And with those great block numbers again.
Yeah. And the return of the blue face mask. Well done.
And as we know, the season has progressed, well, just about at the halfway point while we're doing this recording. There's been so many uniforms to comment on that this is the only loss the Lions have to this point. So the best looking uniform has become the cursed uniform for them, that they don't want to wear this. And I wonder if we're going to see it again or not.
Yeah, for from what I've seen and noticed with other teams, especially the Saints, it reminds me very much of the Saints formula. It's basically being treated as a turnback and probably only going to be worn once, maybe twice.
I like this uniform so much. If I'm just taking the home uniform, it's easily my favorite new uniform over the last favorite new uniform over the last 5+ years
Yeah.
that any team that has introduced. This is at the top of my list. It's that good, and it's a real shame. It seems like we may only get it once the entire season when we were thinking, well, this should be the default uniform.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just great.
Yeah, and it seems from what we know that pants are something that can be changed from week to week, not pre-planned like the jersey having to be selected in advance. So maybe they were originally going to wear these more, but they've won more in their tights, in their pajama look. So they're going to keep rolling with those, from what it seems.
And before we finish off with this, I want to just lay it down that this is the right home uniform for the Lions.
Right.
They don't seem to get it, but we do. This is the correct home uniform for the Lions at their best.
Right, and if they ultimately are only going to wear them once or twice a season, then they might as well just go back and wear the throwbacks that Barry Sanders wore, full, accurate, and complete at that rate.
Maybe the Cowboys and the Saints. This was, in the past, a matchup that you could get excited for.
Yeah.
Whether it be in Dallas, whether it be in New Orleans, because you knew what you were going to get. Now it's a disappointment. The Cowboys came through and the Saints let us down again.
Yeah. You know what you're going to get with the Saints these days. Not the gold pants, the black pants. And if they would just wear the gold pants, this would be a pretty solid matchup. And in our opinions, if the Saints wore the gold pants all the time, it would be a much better uniform. But they decided to go with the black tights with no stripe at all. Even if they just had the stripe on the black pants, it would help a lot, as we've said so many times. But this was a waste. The Cowboys looking good. The Saints looking mediocre.
You have to tip my cap in this one to Dak Prescott for getting the socks right. As we've criticized him in almost every occasion that we could for wearing the white socks all the way up, the white sock stocking look, actually wearing the blue. As in this picture here, actually all the Cowboys are getting it right. But the Saints, I mean, that's as much of a criticism as I have, as well as could you at least have some stripe on the pants? I mean, we both hate the black pants on the Saints, the black on black especially. It was a disappointment when they start wearing the black on the road when they had the white jerseys, but to continuously wear this black on black with no striping on the pants, it's just gone on too long. Had enough.
Yeah, it's lame, it's lazy, and from what we can tell, they've inspired lots of other teams to follow and do the same thing with the same jersey and the same pant color without any stripe.
You're going to repeat again for the record that when the Saints went all the way, the only time they wore the gold pants, not black pants, You just take the NFC Championship game against the Vikings at home in the Dome, gold pants, Super Bowl against the Colts, gold pants.
Yeah.
They have never won anything of significance with this look. Yet they continue to do it season after season after season.
Yep. It's always a point to mention.
The Week 2 Sunday night game. This was like a Halloween game, a dress-up game between the Bears and the Texans.
Yeah. Originally, I was thinking that the Texans were going to wear one of their new alternates, either the H-Town or the red, all red. But instead, they go all white, white tights all the way down. And the Bears decide to throw all class out the window and go all orange helmet, jersey, and socks. Just glad they don't have the orange pants to go with it, but they were the one team you could have maybe counted on to look good. Well, you should, pretty much always, except for in a few cases, but nope.
This Sunday night game was supposed to be a showcase of up-and-coming teams with exciting young quarterbacks with Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud. And if this is a preview of what we're going to have going forward, I want none of it. The Bears wearing the orange helmet and the orange jersey, and the Texans going white all the way down. But I have to say, should just be thankful that it wasn't a full color rush. Just be thankful that the Bears were wearing white pants and not orange pants, right?
Right.
That's about where we're at with so many of these games. We just have to be thankful for them getting anything right, even though the rest of the uniform is wrong and messed up here.
Yeah.
But this was, a really big game for the Texans because it's time to take them seriously. And then they come out wearing white all the way down.
Yeah, it's just another prime example of primetime game, and we're not dressing our best. We're dressing anything but our default or best.
Not that the Texans are really ever going to look good, but a white, wrong choice. And here's another one from this game. I couldn't help it. Seeing this picture of the jersey is just like, yeah, can we rip that thing off?
Yeah.
And bring the blue in?
Yeah. That's why the untucked undershirt looks so bad and is so bad, and seen it many times. Players get a hold of it and it gets torn and stretched way out. Bring back the blue, Bears.
Yeah, and I'll just say, from just the play on the field, it wasn't a particularly good game either. The appearance and the quality, or a lack thereof, in this Sunday night game.
Yeah.
On a much more positive note, the Vikings in Week 3 at home turned back the clock.
Yeah. Great to see. And of course, the biggest feature, which you shouldn't have to point out, but do, with the Vikings is the purple socks are back. Instead of focusing on other things like the block numbers and the shoulders being correct, we're having to focus on the socks being actually purple, which they should always be. But
And I have to, before we even get to the uniforms, I don't forget this. I love in the picture of Sam Darnold the old classic helmet in the background there.
yeah, they did a good job, like quite a few teams have, outfitting the whole stadium and branding and cheerleaders and all people involved in the total retro look. And seeing them in the bright early season sunlight in Minnesota is as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's a real treat because you wouldn't get that in the old days of the Metrodome. And when I'm looking at Sam Darnold, I love it. That is how you're supposed to wear the uniform. That's how a quarterback should look. This is how the Vikings should look every home game.
Yeah.
And I hope they wear it more than once.
Yeah, last year they added a second game, and hopefully they will this year too.
More purple. Here was week 3 also in Dallas, where the Ravens visited the Cowboys.
Yeah, and as we've noted, teams that go to Dallas love to dress different, wear some alternate, because assumingly more people are watching, just like for primetime games. And so the Ravens came out in all purple except for the helmet, and it looks worse.
I'll give them one positive here is that they actually have a stripe on the pants,
Yeah.
which would be nice on other uniform sets that the Ravens have. Well, I'm not going to give them any excuses in this game. I'm not going to compliment them any further than that, because purple on purple is one of the worst uniform designs you can go with. Purple, we've always said, done in moderation. Purple done with taste, like we just saw with the Vikings, can be very good.
Yeah.
But this is taking it too far, and we know it will be taken further than this
Yeah.
later in the season, because they still have the black helmet. But you have the Cowboys on the other side of the field with their top 5 uniforms, all-time great, among the all-time great uniforms in the league, and the Ravens come out just looking like an unprofessional team.
Yeah. They could at least have black socks. They could add in a little more contrast, but they didn't. And again, as I've pointed out before, AFC team versus NFC team once every 4 years, once every 8 years in the rotation of playing in each other's stadiums. And I know with the extra game, since the expanded 18 season schedule, it happens a little more often, but still, the two teams don't play each other on average, except for once every 8 years here in Dallas, and you wear an alternate instead of getting to see their default. And I know nobody cares about that or thinks about that as being important, but I like to see the defaults.
Yeah, and before we head to the next game, commenting on the Cowboys here, I know the Cowboys, there are only a very few numbers that are actually not available to players to use, such as number 12 for Roger Staubach, or Troy Aikman's number 8, Emmitt Smith's 22. There's very few numbers. But when I look at this, it's just interesting. When I see 94 for the Cowboys, I would think in the 90s Charles Haley, though he only spent a number of years there, he wore 94. But then after that, DeMarcus Ware also wore 94, and just to see yet another player wearing that number just doesn't seem right. And then you look at number 21 on the left, also a very significant number in Cowboys history with Deion Sanders, and then Ezekiel Elliott, who no longer has 21, yet here it is in circulation again.
Yeah. Just like you pointed out with the Raiders as well, Cowboys and Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders give
Retirement.
out almost every number that I can think of that should be retired. You see 32 Marcus Allen, you see 75 Howie Long, 81 Tim Brown. They really don't retire numbers for the Raiders. I have to pause here. It's just Color Rush in Arizona on an Sunday afternoon.
And again, we are faced with the Lions wearing the white tights that they love to wear so much.
They hold on to them dearly.
Yes, these are their preferred uniforms now. It's pretty obvious. If they could wear them all the time, I think they would. They could wear them at home all the time. I don't know why they don't, really. But here they are again, and then the Cardinals in a predominantly black, as we have seen in recent years, introduced with the alternate helmet a couple years ago. And it's just, like you said, Color Rush.
Yeah, teams don't have to do this anymore. The
Yeah.
league's not forcing them to do this, but they want to do this. We say in the NFL that it's all about white on white. In the NBA, it's all about wearing black. But the NFL has become a league where just almost just one piece look is what teams want now, and I can't stand it. When I look at the Cardinals, I say, well, the Cardinals, if anything, they should be primarily red.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals, where does black come into play? But it's just black for the sake of black.
Right.
And the Lions, the options for the Lions growing up and seeing uniforms in the 80s and 90s, you say, well, if they're on the road, they really have two options. They're going to have silver pants or they're going to have blue pants.
Right.
And you get neither here.
Yeah, they have both of those options available now. In the preseason, they wore the blue pants with the white jersey twice, and they wore the silver pants at home with the blue jersey once. But when the regular season starts, put those away and lock them up. We don't want to use them.
It's so disappointing when we see games like this where it's a voluntary color rush game.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful players like Barry Sanders didn't have to wear these. Or, we complain about Larry Fitzgerald's helmet, but I'm thankful a player of his talent, or Kurt Warner, never had to wear this for the Cardinals.
Yeah. And the only real compliment I can see of the Cardinals is they actually have a stripe on their pants and on their shoulder of their jersey.
Yeah, and as bad as this is, I would say the better dressed team all the way around, I'd probably have to lean Cardinals just because they do have that stripe.
Yeah.
Though I really do like the Lions' new helmet, I do.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to pick. I mean, picking between bad and really bad and awful, I mean, they're just both terrible. I mean, it's like the Lions have a good helmet going for them and everything else is wrong. The Cardinals really don't get anything right with these uniforms. I mean, we're having to compliment them on having a white stripe on black pants.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with these.
Yeah, and said it before with the Lions, if they would just add a stripe like on their helmet and on their shoulder to the pants and add blue socks with this set, it could actually be okay for a white all the way down set. But this is just, again, so sloppy and lazy and cheap looking. And again, we blame the Saints for starting this trend. And the Lions caught on.
Thank you, Saints.
And the Lions have taken it even farther than the Saints in a lot of ways.
Okay. That's all I can take of from this game, but at least I have a positive that, although I say this sometimes, that the teams may look bad in a certain uniform, but it actually looks better on the cheerleaders. In this case, the black looks good on the cheerleaders, unlike the players on the team because you have black top, black shorts, black boots combination.
Yeah.
It works. I just don't want to see it on the field. I mean, just I'd say again, get rid of it altogether, Cardinals. But at least the cheerleaders know how to make it look good. And the point is, they're not wearing black all over.
Yeah.
Thursday night game in New York. Cowboys, Giants.
Yeah, these two teams with all their history, and you get this instead of the Giants wearing their turnback and the Cowboys wearing their standard road.
Let me start with the Cowboys. I really don't have any complaints about the Giants except if they're not wearing their socks right. But with the Cowboys, I just don't get these uniforms. You have the 60s uniform that you wear at Thanksgiving now. Just about every year. You know that's what they're most likely going to wear. You have the white helmet. It's the simple blue star, no outline. You got the stars on the shoulders. I'm fine with that. And the cool thing is they do have the blue socks, which they get right with that uniform, and it can be done very well as a turn-back uniform.
Yeah.
This is just sort of an updated version of that, but you add white stocking. So you put the outline around the star, and then you ditch the blue socks for the white stockings because that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
So it's just an inferior, updated version of something you're already going to wear.
Yeah.
At least give me the 90s one, which we need to feature some. The 94, 95s that have a silver helmet, that have actual true silver pants,
right,
which they don't have on the regular uniform or any other regular or any uniform set. Give me those. These, I can't believe they brought them back for a second year.
Yeah, there's just not enough difference from their standard uniform and from their true turnback. It's just kind of in between, like you said.
Right, and then another thing is they add the outline around the numbers. That would be the other thing that's different about these. But I would say the main feature is they don't have to wear those terrible blue socks.
Yeah, and if they did, this uniform would be a lot better just with that. And it's interesting that they have a silver middle part of the stripe on the pants with this uniform, and they have no silver anywhere else. Why? But again, teams could coordinate and have a significant uniform historical matchup. The Giants could have worn their throwback. But going back to that Lions and Cardinals that we were just talking about, teams seem to like to coordinate and work together on color rush combinations, but they don't like to coordinate on throwback combination.
Yeah, and this was just the start of week 4. It was a long 3 weeks of how much went wrong, and this is how the Cowboys start week 4, and this is the weakest of their uniforms.
Yeah.
I say, challenge me. What is a worse uniform that the Cowboys could throw out? I mean, there always could be something worse. But when you're talking about a team like the Cowboys, you know, the Cowboys know how to design. They know how to put off a good presentation. They know how to present themselves in the best light, whether it's the home uniform, if it's a road uniform, if it's an alternate uniform. They know how to dress up the field. They know how to dress up the cheerleaders. They know what looks good. And then they have this.
Yeah.
It's a head scratcher. So it was a disappointing beginning of week 4. But here's a better one. The Falcons and the Saints. Falcons hosting the Saints, and the Falcons go back to their turn-back uniforms and really get this right.
Yeah, this is the best they can look, and it's dramatically better than their standard uniforms, definitely some similarities, but overall, just the logo on the helmet, so much better. The traditional jersey design with the good numbers, the stripe on the pants, the contrasting socks, very, very important.
In some ways, what's making the first, well, we can't say quite quarter anymore because there's 17 games in the season, there's 18 weeks, but we'll say roughly the first quarter. What really made it bearable was the throwback uniforms.
Yeah.
Because there's so many bad alternate uniforms, new design uniforms in the league. Thank you to teams such as this, like the Falcons.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Seahawks. Thank you, Vikings. Thank you, Jets, for bringing back your uniforms, because it's just been a tough start to the uniform season here. And great helmet, solid jersey. I mean, just all the way down. This is a very solid look, and considering how often the Falcons wear this, a couple times a season, it's another, I say, like any of these other teams that we brought up, whether it be the Seahawks or the Vikings, well, could you at least give it some stronger consideration as your permanent, regular look?
Yeah. When they wear them 3 times, which they did last year, and again, we don't like to look ahead and spoil what's coming. We like to be surprised, but assume they're going to wear them 3 times again this year. Why not go back full time at that point? That's more than anybody, or as much as anybody, wears a throwback.
And I'm okay with certain teams when they get a uniform right that it is their permanent look.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Packers, Cowboys, with what the Browns have now.
Yeah.
Don't change it. And if the Falcons wanted to just say, this is what we're wearing from here on out, do it. Of course, Saints, you're just stupid on the other side. We saw the other extreme of against the Cowboys, oh, we're wearing all black. And then they go on the road and we're wearing all white. Again, you can't even give us black socks. You got to wear white jersey, white pants, white socks, stockings.
Yeah. And again, this is the inspiration, as far as I'm concerned, for the Lions look. Because the Saints were the first to do this. We've talked about it many times. The white pants with no stripe, no anything on it. Just totally plain, lazy. Doesn't complement at all the helmet or the jersey. It's just, we don't really want to wear pants this week.
Yeah, I'm just to the point where I root against the Saints.
Yeah.
Because of what they wear at home, what they wear on the road. Games at the Superdome are so hard to watch for me. Dome football, I mean true dome football. We know the difference between what a dome is and what a dome is not.
Yeah.
True dome football, and then 9 times out of 10 with the uniform, and that's probably being generous, they're going to get it wrong. Almost 10 out of 10 times they get the uniform wrong. But thank you again, Falcons. Very well done. And that's a helmet that really pops.
Yeah.
For all the right reasons.
Very well done.
Now here's a positive uniform game all the way around. We don't get too many of these. It was the Steelers and the Colts.
Yeah, just great on both sides. Classic. And, of course, the 2 complementary colors, blue and yellow, always look great against each other. But being both historical teams on top of it just makes it even better.
This is the best combo that these 2 teams can wear. I love both Steelers uniforms, but the road is the stronger one. And the Colts with the white blue at home is a uniform doesn't get talked up enough. It's one of the best home uniforms in football.
Yeah. Only slight modifications over the years. The white face mask, the blue face mask, the gray face mask, and then the numbers recently were modified a little bit, but overall. Classic Colts, and welcome back, Joe Flacco.
Oh, yeah.
He knows how to wear the uniform right, and he knows how to wear a helmet that looks good too, just like Aaron Rodgers does.
Yeah, Joe Flacco can keep playing as long as he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the Colts are glad to have him, and the Browns wish they still had him. He might be a statue quarterback, but he can keep teams going and keep them in the playoff hunt.
You can still bomb it, though. Yeah. Thank you, Colts. Thank you, Steelers. This is a different story. It was the Broncos at the Jets. And here's another look at the Broncos uniform. We didn't look at it too closely when they debuted it. We saw it at a distance because we were really focusing more on the Seahawks.
Right.
Rightfully so. I mean, I just love those Seahawks. 80s, 90s Seahawks. Just love those Seahawks turn-back uniforms. But this is the Broncos up close. And let me just complain about the matte helmet, that's one thing, and those numbers.
Yeah.
The pattern inside of the numbers.
Yeah, mesh dots were the type of uniforms, the type of jerseys you'd buy in the store. They were the cheaper type of jerseys that were the replicas, and it would be kind of embarrassing. They wouldn't hold up well, but now you got teams like the Lions and Broncos that build them in and show the undershirt or whatever is underneath instead of being solid.
Well, I like what you said there, cheap. It is a very cheap look for NFL franchises that, you know, the value of these teams, you know, they're up in the billions of how much these teams are worth, and they come you know, they have a jersey like this, and they have designs like this, and this is as bad as it gets for the Broncos with these new uniforms. And we saw when we did the preview of all these different combinations, and for a team with the history they have, it's sad.
Yeah.
Raiders, Browns in Las Vegas. The Raiders, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get one of the best uniforms in football, week in, week out, home road. Here at home, though you kind of say it's not really their home.
Right.
In Las Vegas, and the Raiders don't really have home games there, and we both feel strongly that the Raiders really should only be in one of two places. It's either Oakland or they should have been in Los Angeles, not the Chargers.
Yeah.
But they're in Las Vegas. And the Browns pull these uniforms out, and they pick some of the worst teams to wear these uniforms against. Last year they wore them against the 49ers in Cleveland.
Yeah.
One of the best uniforms in football. And they did it again against the Raiders, just saying, here, this is an ugly uniform that we have. This is the worst uniform we have, and we're going to keep putting it up against class. Well, what do you have to say about the white Browns?
Yeah,
Again, isn't that a contradiction? The white Browns.
Yeah. Very surprising that they chose to do this on the road in a non-prime time game. And the Browns, like you just said, are primarily in white. And again, it's a uniform that was based on a leather helmet era uniform, not even a uniform that had a helmet, and trying to make it into a modern uniform like the Giants did week one we talked about. And it's just a bad look when you have wasting this against what could have been a great contrast in the Raiders.
Yeah, we've already talked about these Browns before and how disappointing they were, and I felt like, the Bengals beat them to it and they did it better
Yeah.
with the white helmet and white uniform. I want to talk more about the Raiders for a moment, and this is nothing against the uniform of the Raiders. What makes me upset about the Raiders being in Las Vegas is a couple things. One is they're out of California.
Yeah.
How can that happen? The Raiders being out of California. And I know the Raiders are a big joke nowadays, but the Raiders had a great, great history for decades of winning. But number two, when it comes to their uniforms, that you don't get to see one of the very best uniforms in the sunlight anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about Allegiant Stadium. Everyone talks about how great Allegiant Stadium is. And I have very mixed feelings about Allegiant Stadium. My biggest complaint about it is, I'll say one good thing, is they have grass.
Yeah.
But my biggest complaint there is that they don't have natural sunlight coming into the stadium. That they built it so it's not a retractable roof. That's one thing. And number two is they don't have a clear roof. So you never get the sparkling sun on the beautiful, well, let's just say one of the best looking uniforms in football. You don't get to see the shine of the sunshine on the silver helmet or the pants, unless they wear these on the road, and that doesn't happen very much. And they're playing on the road and they're actually outside.
Yeah, even more rare.
It's really a crying shame for uniform fans and anyone who appreciates the Raiders uniform. And I always kind of sigh and I sort of cringe, when I see a Raiders game on in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the best it looks is as if you have a cloudy game outdoors. It looks like that inside of Las Vegas, and that's under the best conditions.
Yeah, if you're used to seeing, and this is for Raiders fans, if you're used to seeing the games growing up like we did for the Raiders at the Oakland Coliseum, you can criticize the Coliseum all you want. You had the infield dirt. You had games there that were played on a multi-purpose stadium. But you had the bright sun on some of the greatest uniforms. Whenever I see a Raiders game in Las Vegas, I always think to myself what it could be, or what it could have been, what it should be for these uniforms. Because at least they always looked at their best at the Oakland Coliseum. So thank you, Mark Davis. Thank you, NFL and Roger Goodell, for pushing this team to Las Vegas and not being able to keep them in California. And it needs to be said. It should be said more, and it doesn't. Just like, oh, the Raiders in Las Vegas is such a wonderful thing. No, it's not a wonderful thing for the team. It's not a wonderful thing for the fan base. It's a good place for Super Bowls. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football in Detroit. Seahawks and Lions.
And this was the Lions' debut, their new uniform set of black with the blue helmet. And again, these two teams, it appears, got together and said, let's do Color Rush together on Monday Night Football. And that's what it seems we got. And the Lions, especially, I noticed that the logo, the stripe, appeared a lot darker on screen and in action than it did in the photo shoot photos they provided for us. The contrast was poorer than I thought it was going to be, and just didn't come off as well to me. It's more of a silver outline of the lion on the helmet. It could use more of a white, but just the blue and the black didn't contrast as well as it looked like they were going to. And then, of course, you got the black all the way down. No stripe on the pants. Couldn't go with blue socks to match the helmet, which would have helped this set a bit, I think. But just still another black for the sake of black. Inferior look.
You know, the Lions in 4 weeks had 4 different uniforms.
Yeah.
Week 1 at home, debuting this new uniform set, they go blue and blue.
Yeah.
Week 2, they get it right with going blue on the gray, which should be silver. But we're going to pick our battles. Week 3 in the desert, white on white, and then coming back home, black on black. And 3 out of the first 4 games were at home.
Yeah.
It's a stupid helmet. It's a stupid helmet. It's an okay jersey, all in all. And the black pants, though. I mean, at the point, I would have said, well, could we have some kind of compromise? If we had the silver helmet, can you at least... I don't like black on so many teams. If you don't have black, if you're not the Steelers, if you are not the Raiders, if you're not the Bengals or the Saints, and forgive me if I'm forgetting someone else who has black right now as their primary color. If you're not those teams that have black as one of your 2 primary colors, just don't wear it. It's like the 49ers I mean, I'm thinking of all teams. The 49ers, we had to say this, were wearing a gold helmet and then everything was black on black all the way down. I mean, black jersey, black pants, that's one we need to talk about. That was the most embarrassing time as a 49ers fan, not just because the team was awful, but as a legacy team, usually a team with class, they did that. And I'm saying for them, could they at least give me the gold pants? Could you at least give me the Saints look?
Yeah.
Or going back to the Cardinals when they had white pants, white helmet, black jersey, white pants. Can you? I'll at least compromise there at this point. Lions, could you at least give me the silver helmet and silver or gray pants? No. No stripe, no nothing. Just black all the way down, just like they've got white, all the way down on the road.
Yeah, there's so many ways this could have been done better. You put the stripe that's on the shoulder of the jersey on the pants, or you make the pants blue, or you make the socks blue. But no, there's just no contrast.
Even that, right. Blue socks.
Yeah.
Even that would look really bad.
Right.
It'd be a very weak look, but even if you could give me blue socks...
Black pants with blue socks, yep.
And blue socks. Oh. I mean, a blue stripe on the pants and blue socks.
Yeah, it would help this a lot.
That's what the 49ers did, at least. Their an example was they had a red stripe on the pants and they had the red socks. I mean, it was still, a disgrace that they had a black jersey on black pants, but it wasn't to this extreme. Of course, that was unimaginable back then. I mean, it was unimaginable they did what they did.
Yeah.
The Lions have liked black for a long time. The Lions have liked messing with their uniforms for a long time. I mean, these are a failure. And the whole point of introducing these new home uniforms was they finally got it right again.
Yeah.
And then 1 out of 3 times at home did they wear the silver, blue, gray combo. And they pull this out as, on Sunday night, the 2 primetime games, they wear blue on blue. And then they wear the black on black.
Right.
Here, you're the Lions. This is not the image you want to go with. You're finally having some success. This is what you do, and didn't even get around to talking about the Seahawks. Can you just give me some blue socks? That's all we're talking about. Just give me some blue socks. I mean, we've criticized these over and over again. how bad these uniforms are for the Seahawks when you have something like what we just saw with the silver and blue at home, or on the road you could have the silver helmet and silver pants. And we're still stuck with these boring, drab uniforms, whether it's home or road. I mean, blame the Seahawks too. We should, because a lot of teams love what they're doing because they were one of the first teams as well. You can, of course, put the blame at the feet of the Saints to begin, but the Seahawks, when they redesigned and went blue on blue, even before the set they have now,
Right.
the lighter blue,
First.
they were doing blue on blues at home. Then we think of let's call it the Pete Carroll Legion of Boom Seahawks that went to the 2 Super Bowls. You know, at home, they're wearing the blue on blue almost always, and on the road, they're either wearing a white on white the majority of the time, or they pull it a white on gray. Very
White on
rarely
blue.
a white on blue. But most of the time, it was all blue on blue at home or white on white on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and their strongest look, you can argue.
But at
is
least back
that-
then, they had the blue socks. At
Right.
least they had the blue socks.
The strongest look that you could argue they have was the blue helmet with the white jersey and the blue pants, which they wore in the Super Bowl and they beat the Broncos with. And now they're doing this. And this is new this year, maybe into late last year, but the white socks with the white pants. Terribly simplistic and another downgrade, another uniform that had better socks and is now converted into something worse.
So that was a very eventful, I would say the most eventful first 4 weeks for uniforms in NFL history.
Yeah.
And the only thing that saved me from losing it was the turnback uniforms and the Jets.
Yeah.
New uniforms. Otherwise, I mean, this was bad. This was really bad with seeing the Giants and the Texans. The Giants turnback uniforms from the 30s, the Texans and all their home and roads, the disaster of a game in Houston between the Texans and the Bears, the Ravens wearing purple on purple in Dallas, the color rush in Arizona, the Cowboys messing around with an inferior uniform, the Saints, constantly getting it wrong home or road, the Broncos new uniforms, and you have these Lions. There's a lot that's wrong. It's a long season.
Yeah.
And we finish up with just one quick MLB postseason change. And that was the ad on the helmet.
Yeah, and this was rumored for years. It never happened, but this year when the playoffs began, it finally did. And not only is it on one side, it's on both sides.
Right, both sides of the batting helmets. And, for a number of years, you'd see highlights from Japan. And I think of games in the Tokyo Dome where like, oh, wow, they have advertising on their helmets. That's so bad. That's so tacky. That's so desperate to get money. And that's not going to come over here. And, well, it finally made it. And of all times to do it is in the postseason.
Yeah.
When you're seeing this on, it's one thing to see it on a Padres helmet.
Yeah.
But we'll see it in an upcoming episode. You'll see this on the Dodgers helmet. You'll see this on the most sacred of all baseball helmets, the Yankees
Yeah.
batting helmets. And it's not a small ad. It's not just a little logo. I mean, it fills the whole side of both the left and right part of the helmet.
Yeah.
It's not on one side. It's not a small logo. It's big.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. They don't want you to miss it. It's too much too fast.
Yeah.
In baseball of all sports. And baseball uniforms are the most important uniforms of the major sports, at least if we're talking about the three major sports here on our show, the uniform show. And they are so cluttered now with Nike logo, patches, to memorial patches, that it's one thing to remember someone, but it seems like there's just more and more all the time now, and teams need to be a little more selective with who they put on there. And then you have the ad patch on there, and then it's just like look at the Padres here. They've got, patches on both sleeves. Then they have, do you really need a 20-year anniversary patch for a ballpark? I mean, that's what it is. A 20-year anniversary patch for Petco Park. Too much. It's way too much.
Yeah.
And I can't help and didn't even get to complain about all the neon that Manny Machado is wearing. The team color is not neon highlighter yellow. The team color is regular yellow, not highlighter yellow.
Yeah.
At least wear your team color. I wouldn't like it anyway because it's the secondary color, but come on. Well, that's a full episode. We'll have more football to review. There'll be the baseball postseason. NBA now is here, so it's the busiest time of the uniform year.